Yo, welcome back with a very special episode today with Thomas from Moonaco and Kutkraft from Specweekly. But firstly, we are
live.
All right. Welcome back, everyone.
Shimmer now.
The Shimmer guy.
Shimmer EVM.
Shimmer Network.
Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and liftoff.
Finally getting warmer here, right, with Shimmer?
Alright, let's get into it.
Hi, mate. How you going, man?
How's it going, guys? Today we're going to be discussing Iota Shimmer and we'll also be taking your questions. I'm sure everyone knows who Specweekly and Thomas is, but why don't you introduce yourself just in case?
All right, so I'm Kutkraft.
Fresh talk to him.
This is Specweekly.
And I've been in the community since 2018. Well, towards the end of 2018 is when I started to get involved outside of Reddit. But Reddit was my primary source of engaging with the community for the first few months after I bought into Iota. And in around 2019, I contributed to the Wikipedia article and was part of that final push to get it published. There's a community member called Breacle. I'm not sure if he's still around, but he was just really influential to get that published, whereas I was kind of fighting the dirty fight with the Wikipedia editors. People like to think of Wikipedia as this, beacon of information, but getting stuff published, especially in cryptocurrency, is a huge fight. Because, it seems like they don't, well, back then anyway, 2019, they didn't want to get stuff published. So I went dormant for a while and I just started to get into the channel where I'd chat with people and, get to know our community. And from there, I decided to start working on my YouTube channel called Specweekly, which started in March or April of 2022. So it's been about a year and a half now that I've been more public with my ideas about Iota. And so that brings us to today, where I'm catching up with the two real legends, well, the modern day legends of Iota content, which is you guys, I think. But Chris Mueller really was the inspiration for me to get started, and seeing him go was kind of like, oh man, let's try to help fill that YouTube gap a little bit.
Well, there we go. Specweekly straight from the Wikipedia wars straight into the Iota wars. So battle hard.
Pretty much. Yeah, straight into the spec wars. It gets dirty in there sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, and Thomas?
Yeah, as said, name is Thomas. It's a very similar story to Kutkraft. Joined in about 2017. Didn't have the slightest clue about crypto or Iota or whatever. I just heard that Russia is going to adopt Iota. I was like, okay, I'm going in on this. And then I found the community and got very hooked very fast.
Russian
some lie that my brother told me. But it hooked me. But I follow closely in the community, mostly known as the bipolar speculator that one day can be super hyped, the next day can simply hate everything. But it's all fun and good mostly though. Internal jokes which can both be hurtful to the ecosystem probably. But anyway.
The P posts?
Yeah.
You have the highest count of those type of posts because I see you constantly in there posting them.
Nice, I have something to tell my family later. I followed Chris Mueller as well. And once he stopped making his content, we all sort of noticed that there was a lack of awareness going around.
Chris, come back to us.
And it started out as a joke, doing the podcast because we always have the Moonaco party, right? And then I was like joking, okay, let's do the Moonaco podcast. And a lot of people approached me and said that you should do that. And after some consideration and figure out like let's do it, because I'm not really comfortable do things like this. Like never done anything like it before. It's like how am I supposed to do this? So but we jumped into it. Got a lot of great guests very early on. Dom and all the guys were so kind to come and talk to us, and I think we ended up in some sort of top 3 in Germany, and we got on a billboard in Austria, like the highway and all that. It was very
Wow,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's epic. And thanks for joining us, Thomas. Obviously, you've been busy. Well, not obviously, but you've been busy in doing some manual work in the garden. So thanks that you could join us.
Fucking mower.
Give yourself a rest for an hour or so. That's all audience members. Grab yourself some tea and have a rest and just listen to these two fire away.
Hey, Thomas, did you really buy that mower already? Did you
Yeah,
buy
I
the
did,
automatic
but
one?
it's spending more time upside down than it's supposedly working.
Oh, is it
Fucking
not as good as
trash.
what they advertise it? It
No,
tips over.
it's not.
Oh,
It's
man.
it's a struggle.
False advertising.
Yeah, hopefully in the
Fucking
end
A,
though,
man.
it's a lot of user faults, you may say, but it's not as good as it should be for that price.
Can you remote control it, or is it just fully automatic?
Now I can press start on the app and that's about it, or go park. But when it's stuck, then it's just have to go out there, and that's a little bit hard when I'm offshore.
We need
Yeah,
to link
okay.
Iota up to it somehow. The Internet of Things, so we can get that lawnmower working while you're away.
Yeah, now I just have to contact the girlfriend of things, so she has to go fix it.
That's the way it has to be done.
Mm.
This is great banter. It really is.
Anyways, so first off, I just want to keep unless you've been living in a cave for the last 6 months, the Shimmer EVM is arriving, and we do have an ET8 this Friday. So yeah, it's huge news. So I just want to, start off with by just getting your initial thoughts, comments, musings on the Shimmer EVM.
It's about time. Is what I've got to say, dude. We've been waiting I guess that's just the default musing is we've been waiting so long for it to come, and now that it's finally here, it almost doesn't feel. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it doesn't feel real. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, now what's going to happen? Is something huge going to explode, or are we going to have a slow climb up in terms of utility, in terms of network activity, and all that kind of stuff? Which I think is probably the way it's going to go.
Yeah. I just had an argument in Spec with Ricardo. He said price ain't gonna go anywhere. But that's the thing. We are about to enter into something that is completely new to all of us. It's like an easy system, and I don't have enough knowledge about this type of things to say like, yes, this will drive up the price. But people that are smarter than me, that does know more about this than I do say that simply the demand from having smart contracts will drive the price. And I can imagine, like, I haven't really checked it out. It's all from reading in Spec, but it's like Shimmer doesn't have any volume, right? It doesn't have much exchanges. It doesn't have any awareness. It doesn't have a really big community. So, in my mind, if EVM goes live, you get people running their projects on top of it, and they are able to attract people to actually use it. That means there will be a demand, which that demand is zero now, which means like a probably 10x, 20, 50x the volume of today, which sort of in my mind does mean a success for everybody. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 100% I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be a slow process. It's probably unrealistic to expect it to go, to the moon immediately. Because earlier, I was looking at DeFi Llama at the various different smart contract chains and the TVL stats on them. And if you look, pretty much all of them have like the first 6 to 7 months, it's a bit of a flat line, like slowly rises, but then there's some sort of catalyst and they shoot up and keep rising. So I think it's just going to be finding its feet for the first 6 months or so. Obviously, the really hardcore Shimmer and Iota users will be using it. But as it stays stable over time and more people use it, there's more projects, etc. It's just going to build and build and build and snowball, hopefully. And then, at one point, there's going to be a catalyst that really sends it to the moon. So it probably is a great accumulation point right now. Not financial advice, but yeah, I mean, it's just the first step, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I can imagine
I
that.
think so.
It's like a short way up to like 0.1, with like some hype, some news, and some actually small demand. But for it to, of course, become a big DeFi protocol, it's a long way. And then all projects probably won't go live at the same day. It probably will take a couple months until everybody that is sort of in the ecosystem list goes live and are able to attract enough users to sort of notice that there is some activity here. But it's, of course, it's a great start, and finally we were here. And as Kutkraft said, it's been a long while.
Yeah, so long. It feels like we're always waiting with the Iota, and Shimmer, but let's just hope now we can start delivering. And maybe we'll come on to this later, but I did see some big news about the Sooniverse earlier today. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's just so much news going on right now. It's almost overwhelming. You really, even like us who are obviously quite hardcore into the community, it's quite hard to keep up because all these different dApps are releasing news. There's various different announcements. But if you actually drill down into some of the announcements, there's actually so much more going on than I think even we realize.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'll probably come on to that in a minute. But yeah, the Sooniverse and TangleSwap announcement, it really blew my mind this morning.
Yeah, like it
You
was.
go
I
into
think it
that,
was
Jamie.
Iota be. Oh, sorry, Kutkraft, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, let's go into that because I haven't had time to cover it, and it might be
Yeah.
a good topic to talk about. So, what was the announcement about roughly? Not in too much detail, if you don't have it.
So TangleSwap, I don't know if you remember originally, they were obviously going to release a dApp on Shimmer and Iota. So the dApp on
Yes.
Shimmer was going to have Void token, and the dApp on the Iota mainnet was going to have, I think, Mass, they were going to call it. So there's going to be these two separate tokens. And obviously, with Shimmer EVM going live, and I think a big part of this announcement is to do with Iota's announcement that they're focusing on just one Iota token. So what Shimmer Swap have announced this morning, or I'm not too sure when this video is going to go live, but I'll edit that bit out, is that instead of releasing this Void token and their own dApp on Shimmer EVM, they're going to release a module on the Sooniverse instead. So what they're going to release is actually going to be released onto the Sooniverse now in a partnership, which at the start I was a bit confused by because it seems like they're going from having their own dApp to now just being a module on the Sooniverse. But I jumped in the chat and chatted with a few of them, and what they confirmed was that they're basically now their focus is going to be releasing the Void token on the Iota mainnet, and that's in light of the Iota's, expediting the smart contracts in the mainnet. So, and what token they're going to use on Sooniverse is Soon token. So I think this is super bullish for Soon because now you're going to have people from the TangleSwap ecosystem using Soon. And I think you're going to see a lot of projects like this who just integrate using the Sooniverse's tech already. So first of all, I think it's really, really bullish for Sooniverse, but it's a really interesting move from TangleSwap as well to basically almost decide to focus on the Iota EVM and prepare for that.
And you can already
So
see that.
what's? Oh, sorry, Thomas. Sorry. Go.
Now, just pointing out that the Soon token actually went up like 19% after this news. So it's pretty good to see that the projects are coming out, and I'm a really big fan to see them collaborate with like this because it makes it so much easier for them to cover different aspects and move along a lot more faster and able to gather a bigger community because then the Iota B community comes over to the Sooniverse community and the TangleSwap community all gets into the same kind of bowl there and able to spread each other's news and build each other and like, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, and then if you go a step deeper in that, and this is what really made me bullish and blew my mind, was TangleSwap have this CLMM, which is like a next level DEX. I think this is a Uniswap version 3, where they have concentrated liquidity. So this is kind of like the latest tech in DEXs. And I always thought they were one step ahead by integrating that. Because I think TangleC originally didn't. And anyways, this tech will now be integrated into Sooniverse, and Build 5 will have access to it potentially as well. So for their commercial development. So now they'll have this technology available for commercial adoption and B2B as well. So that's very bullish for TangleSwap and also Sooniverse and Build 5. So it's kind of crazy how you have this interconnectedness there.
Yeah, fully. I'm blown away by what the Sooniverse crew of are morphing into, man. It started as kind of like this community portal where we could, put up our our little communities with NFTs and shitcoins, and now it's kind of turning into a corporate facing entity as well. It's just pretty amazing where they're taking the technology and I guess making it accessible for corporates, which is probably 75% of the issue historically, where any kind of partnership or cooperation with a corporate was to do a proof of concept, and that's where the buck stopped. What they really needed was a suite of tools and utilities to be able to integrate into their corporate offerings, and not just the POC. They want the solution. They don't want to work on the solution kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. They have that modular approach where they can fit things together and they can be very flexible in what they offer to people. And guys, just listen to this tokenomics for you. This will make your nipples hard, Kutkraft, right? Soon token, right? Current market cap 31 million. Circulate the max supply in the future is 100 million. So this, and the circulating supply is 16 million, and 75% of that is staked. So there's only 25% of the current supply available on the market. It's a 31 million pound market cap coin. For me, that's prime for pumpage. There's low liquidity.
Yeah.
If Sooniverse keeps making these partnerships, keeps building more usage now because of the Shimmer EVM, you obviously got the Iota token, you got the Shimmer token. For me, number 3 in the Iota ecosystem is the Soon token.
Push a little bit further on the Soon token. So how is it used by the ecosystem? Does it grant you sort of access to be able to use their modules, or do you know much about how it's utilized within the Sooniverse ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think you can put them in liquidity pools, you can stake it. I believe TangleSwap are also getting a certain amount of Soon as well to use as part of their DEX. So it'll be used on that module as well, because they're going to be using the Soon token for Shimmer EVM only. Obviously, in the future, they're going to use Void for the other points. I mean, there's another point to get onto there and why they actually did this. But yeah, I think the Soon is going to be used throughout their platform. And I need to confirm this, but from what I understand, the Soon will also be used as part of their commercial offering as well as Build 5.
So kind of like a governance token then.
Yeah, a governance, but you can also use it as to stake in liquidity pools, etc. Like a normal sort of.
Very interesting. I'm gonna have to take a real deep dive into, because as you said, Jamie, like there's news all the time, and I'm starting to lose track of it. I can't keep up on everything because everything is a sort of detailed exploration when it comes out as a blog of what's going on in this project, and then if 3 of them come out a day, it kind of, you've got to pick and choose what you read into. So I'm going to have to dive deeper into everything that Sooniverse and Build 5 are doing and how this token interacts, because I might pick some up. This sounds very intriguing. It's starting to sound like an ad. How much hold on, how much did they pay you, man? You didn't cut me and Thomas into this whole deal, dude.
Yeah, they're sending me some DMs later. No, to be honest, I've seen the announcement, and obviously with this pod coming up, I thought I'd look into it a bit more. And yeah, it was actually amazing how I think the Sooniverse token, the Soon token, has a lot of potential value, and it's probably a good bet in this ecosystem. Not financial advice, of course, but if you're looking to invest in dApps, then they've certainly got a lot going on there. And I really like the tokenomics of the fixed supply. It's only a third of 100. Like basically, from what I understand now, it's basically 30% of Shimmer's market value. So even if it was to get to the same level as Shimmer, that would be a 3x immediately.
Yeah.
What's very interesting about the Soon project is that they started off was one of the first, right? That made the Iota community be able to play around with like sort of a pre-DeFi place, so get used to that type of interactions. And then they partner with so many different projects, so it's sort of become like this center for the ecosystem. And as more projects comes into the ecosystem, they will see Soon Labs and Build 5 and all these be sort of like the center. And then like I try to imagine that everyone is sort of course, like TangleSwap, all these others, they are very big projects, but you have always Sooniverse in the middle, and then probably easy for the new projects to also want to interact with them. And as Build 5, you get Build 5 tokens for holding Soon tokens, I believe. Um, so it's just a very interesting project to keep your eyes on. But I'm also hoping that all these projects, because we have so many, with TanglePay, Iota B, ApeDAO, Spice5, Build 5, Soon Labs, Iota Bots, Iota Heroes, Lendex, TangleSwap, Shimmer C, so many projects, right? And it's a lot of very difficult things for people that are very used to using these types of products. So I hope that they spend some time to release sort of easy to understand videos and content, and like speak to you two guys. With you guys make perfect videos, right? Short and easy to understand for dumb people like myself. So if I want to sort of like use Shimmer C, so I have no idea how to work. But if I can just go into one of you guys' YouTube channel and just sort of, okay, TangleSwap, and then find the video, I can see like, oh, that's how you do it. That's how that works. Okay, what's the risk for doing this? Stuff like that. I hope that.
Oh, Thomas, thank you. First of all, thank you for the nice words. I was thinking of just jumping in and doing some free flow interactions with all these DApps that are popping up as well, actually. So yeah, that might be something to do and focus a bit more time on. And there would be no shortage of that as well. You know, me and Jamie can just kind of demo the new platforms that are coming up. The only thing that I lack is kind of deep knowledge of how they all work. You know, the CLMM that Jamie was talking about before, that's going to go up on TangleSwap. You know, I don't have deep knowledge of how that works or how we could benefit from it as we start using it.
I think that's the general consensus in the ecosystem, to be honest. And I think, of course, all these projects have been going on without any income for over a year now, waiting. So they, of course, need some income to get going now. But as that has happened for them, I do urge them to like reach out to Jamie and Kutkraft, get them some payments that you can agree on, and let them advertise you, and as well let people that doesn't have the knowledge be able to use you. And I think that will gain both projects very well.
Yeah, definitely more than happy, and I'm sure Kutkraft is the same. And you know, that's the premise of your podcast as well, isn't it? To interview these projects and the key figures in the space. So
yeah,
get in touch with all three of us. We're happy to help you out in that regard. And just one other point. So I'm looking at the Soon Labs Twitter. Yeah, and it says the Soon is distributed to stakers, liquidity providers, ecosystem builders who create modules and who generate Shimmer fees. So that's almost like an incentivized program for builders to build modules on top of Sooniverse as well. Then they get Soon tokens for that. So that's another great aspect of the Sooniverse, is they're quite collaborative and they're happy to reward builders in the space.
Yeah, completely. And another thing that's very important to keep in mind is not getting blinded by Shimmer EVM. We have to remind ourselves that EVM will come on Iota as well, in hopefully the not too far distant future. And then Stardust is coming next week on Friday, I believe. And we have an update about the UAE Foundation and stuff like that coming out before next Friday, as far as I understood it. We are closing in on the EBSI completion. Matt Yager is releasing Demia, which is a super interesting project, sort of like we all this Dell stuff, Intel. Maybe we even, you have ETO Group doing the Project Alfred and the farming projects. Like they are so many things. Trademark Africa is a huge project. Maybe even get hands on Lex. So there's so many things happening at the same time. And then we also have the project in the ecosystem releasing days. Like only today, I think we had 3 different news from 3 different projects, even 4, I think. So it's very hard to keep up with that and sort of make it all come into one bigger picture. It's very easy to sort of just narrow down on one thing and just constant nagging on that thing. But there's so much going on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that was the problem with me, especially last week, where there was almost too much stuff going on, and it was really hard for me to take it all in. It's just too much. So I think it is worth any new listeners here or anybody in the ecosystem who's feeling the same way. I think it's worth just concentrating on one or two projects initially and just really getting to understand those projects. And then once you understand those, you can always, if you don't like it, move on to the next one, but maybe just focus on one or two. A bit like how you do with any crypto. You wouldn't start reading up on 10 different cryptos. You'd probably focus on one initially, get the grounding, and move on to the next. So that would be my little tip.
Yeah, agreed. Understand one or two things really well, especially since now we're getting DeFi, and it's really, from what I hear, because I haven't even experienced it firsthand, but I hear that it's easy to get stuck and lose some cash with DeFi. So before you jump into any specific way of staking or trying to get some yield, just really try to understand it, because we're gonna have things like accumulator where it automatically tries to get us the most yield when we sort of give it some cash. So we've got to make sure we understand the product before we start using it. So I absolutely agree on this level.
Great. And Thomas, you raised a really interesting point there about not just focus on Shimmer, but focus on Iota as well. Because to me, almost like there is some projects picking up on the fact that the Iota EVM now is going to be the main focus for the IF. What are your thoughts?
Always has been. You know that that meme with the two astronauts. I've got a feeling that there is something brewing with Iota, man. I know we've got that perpetual feeling that's kept us here on the hook, but I feel like it's different this time, where something really is brewing that's going to push Iota back into center stage. Because for the last year, it felt like it took a backseat to Shimmer, where Shimmer got all the attention because it's getting the EVM first. But again, bringing back to what Thomas was saying is like, don't get those horse blinders on you and become too myopic and focused on what's happening with Shimmer EVM. There is still all the sort of real world adoption stuff that is happening with Iota.
I really like the speculation video about the UAE.
Yeah, Thomas, I really do feel like that's the direction. Going by what Dom has commented in Spec over the course of the last few months, just connecting some dots there, I think that's what they're going to go with. And when I saw Dom talking about tokenizing real world assets, I was thinking, yeah, this is kind of definitely the direction we're going in. Things like creating digital. Yeah, that's right. Supply chain, creating digital twins for actual products that are getting moved, but then also maybe creating, and again, speculating some sort of trading market where the commodities are actually traded using DLT as the fabric for that sort of communication between parties. I think we could potentially see something big, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much, because then, we'll get let down when it turns into something that isn't as massive as what we've imagined. But, my hope is there that we'll see some really nice news by the end of the year.
Yeah, me too. That's why they focused on layer 1 smart contracts.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, well, I think that's a different strategy in terms of scaling, in terms of future technologies with ZK, because all this trade platform that they're thinking of spinning up, in my opinion, can be done on layer 2. But having smart contracts on layer 1 definitely boosts the amount of activity that happens on layer 1, which, if mana is going to be used to fuel all that activity, will sort of eat away at people's reserves of mana, especially if you're a big conglomerate, and you've got this huge DApp that's doing hundreds of thousands of transactions a day. Then your mana is going to get eaten up, and then you're going to start needing more to continue fueling the DApps that you've got running on that layer 1. The less mana there is, the more is necessary, drives the price up, creates a secondary market. The only thing that creates mana is your Iota, which then in turn drives up the value of Iota. So I'm really happy that they got rid of assembly in favor of L1s. So it's ultimately going to be good for the Iota token. And I really do think the future is bright, despite all this bad news that we were kind of, bad news depending on the way that you took it. But all this news that was unleashed in the last week definitely had a massive shakeup into all of our perceptions of what Iota was, and turning it into sort of like now this DLT that's got massive potential because the group that's running it has got finally some money to play with that sits outside of that regulated entity where they can only spend it for R&D and education purposes.
Yeah, Assembly was. I'm again as well really pleased that that went. You know, at the end of the day, IOTA is a DAG, and DAGs are meant to be highly scalable, especially on the layer one. So, if anything, that could be a massive differentiator. If the layer one is really scalable, we don't have to rely on the layer two and the bridges, etc. That could really set IOTA apart and be more secure.
Agree.
Bigger than Coinbase.
What's that?
Bigger than Coinbase.
I didn't hear it the first time, but yeah, definitely bigger than Coinbase. Dude, I
Yeah.
didn't know he came back into the chat. I hadn't seen Dan for a couple of
No,
years.
no,
in
he's
the
moved
chat.
on to some other projects. He's not connected to IOTA anymore. Somebody confirmed it. I can't remember who
Yeah.
it was.
But he was
Okay.
he was in Spec Chat under a different account. I think his obviously main account was in Spec Jail, so he couldn't come and use that one.
Mm,
He came in briefly. He's probably just seen what the drama was.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that was
Well,
crazy, that drama, wasn't it?
well, it's sort of
Yeah.
self-inflicted by the IF as well. You can't take all the blame on angry community members because there were so many different hype communications, right? Like bigger than Coinbase, the floodgates, all the exchanges end of year. We got an EVM core decide everything's coming, right? And then we just stood there for like 1.5 years and everything went silent. So of course I can understand why people get upset, but also I can understand that delays do happen. It's unfortunate for everybody. But yeah, but I do feel like, as Kutkraft said, that we are actually finally at some sort of a turning point for the better. That, as we said, assembly going away because I don't think anybody wanted that to begin with. I never bothered to actually read about what it was for. So doubling down on the value of IOTA is good. And then finally getting EVM on IOTA as well, and IOTA 2.0 hopefully as soon as possible. Of course, like it's been talked about so much, so I won't like talk about it a lot. But the inflation of the token, of course, it's not a good thing. It's unfortunate for everybody, but it's also probably the only solution that we do have. It's better to have an inflation than have it go to zero. But I hopefully do think that these funds will be used to make it go up a lot more than what the inflation will be. So fingers crossed there.
Yeah, for sure. That's the idea, that
Mhm.
these funds will make it go up more than what they would have if we didn't have those funds. And also, if we didn't have those funds, would the IF been able to survive long enough so that the
No.
token doesn't eventually go to zero? So there, yeah.
I don't think they can say it in public, but I don't believe that they would survive without it. Probably.
Yeah, I don't think it was much of a choice. It's probably why they didn't put it up to the vote, because what's the point? But I think there's two key points as well in terms of that inflation. First of all, it's going to be, majority of it's going to be tied up in the treasury. So it's not as if that's just going to be dumped straight away. And secondly, it's a 4-year inflation, whereas and then after that's a fixed supply. A lot of other projects like DOT and Cosmo, I think it is, they have unlimited supply. So it's just going to be inflation forever. So, it's not great having a 4-year inflation, but at least it's not unlimited.
Yeah, it's not like it's unique to have an inflation, but for people that has only been reading about IOTA, it does sound very unique, suddenly very dramatic. So I'm not very bothered about it. Yes, of course, if we stand here in 4 years still waiting for IOTA 2.0 and core decide and do not have any good exchanges other than Binance, Bitpanda has delisted us and we are having a 40% decrease in price, and still here at this level, then of course there will be a lot of outrages. But once you know,
that's making me anxious, Thomas. That kind of talk, I'm getting sick in my stomach hearing that.
yeah,
All right,
but here's
go
the
on.
good news though. But like, if
It's
you
like a
do
horror movie.
if you do keep in mind, like Trademark Africa, it's a massive, massive thing. And Alvarium with Demia, EBSI, and you do have the UAE behind this and Bahrain. And as Dom said in the podcast I just released, that there's another country that hasn't been announced yet. The ETO group doing all their things. You have the Energy NIP. projects which has been very successful, hoping to hear
Yeah,
a
that's
update
right.
from them as soon as possible. You get EVM, you get started, you get Iota 2.0, you finally get some money, you get hire more people, you get hands on Lex, and you just pin down, get some marketing done, get on some more exchanges, build up, attract more users, like do proper hackathons where people don't have to sleep on fucking balconies. Just get
Yeah,
everything out there. I think that that will ultimately weigh up for that inflation and by a fair margin, hopefully.
yeah, because I think they mentioned that the UAE probably wouldn't have happened without EBSI. They seen that, and they seen that obviously they got that reputation working with international bodies. So,
Mm,
I think I did a tweet a while ago that even if we don't win, you can't see me, but in space quotes, EBSI, I think we've won already with that because it's the reputation boost for people outside the crypto bubble is huge working with an international trading bloc.
yeah. Can you
Agreed.
imagine what would
Agreed.
happen if like the UAE went live and said like, yeah, hey, we are about to start using IOTA. I can imagine that would be quite a lot of excitement, being like the
Yeah.
crypto capital of the world.
Yeah. Well, building on what you've both just said, it's like, all right, so the EBSI stuff kind of got us in there with the UAE, and then the UAE going public could potentially then spread out even further. You've already got a footprint in Africa. Nigeria is looking to be the most populous country in that region in the coming years, with a lot of young people growing up and sort of being exposed to technology. And the young people are the next set of innovators. So if you've got a footprint in Africa, well, you'll definitely have some technological innovation happening. Who knows in what direction? But then, yeah, the sky's the limit in terms of sort of where it gets applied first, most likely trade and export. But then sky's the limit in terms of where it can spread into after it's been, tried and proven in certain arenas within
Mhm.
a government use case, or a
Another thing that's
government
very
funded or a government wide.
Yeah, another thing that's
Sorry.
very important to think about here is that they're now going to the UAE, so they're doing the Middle East, and they wanted to expand also into Asia, which I think they are doing
There's
very
Asia
much. It's
too.
just this haven't been like too much awareness around that just yet. But
Yeah.
I can imagine, like this is just my speculation, but like let's say the UAE adopt the IOTA technology and not using the actual token, right? Once they have actually used the technology, then it's such a little step to start using the token as well because they only already use that technology. Then so easy to just okay, let's just use the token as well. Just let's get in there. So
You're being
hopefully,
more degenerate than me, more hopeful than me. I think the way that it sort of impacts the token, and the need to use the token would be and I speculated this in the last episode, would be to buy a large reserve of tokens that generates you mana, that will grant you bandwidth and access to the network, and then you don't have to top it up later. You've got this huge reserve, and you subscribe to something. Well, you buy the software once, and then you don't have to pay the subscription model.
mm,
Whereas companies or entities that come in later, they won't be able to get as much of that initial reserve that they need because the price starts to escalate too high. So they'll have to probably look for more of a mana-based um, bandwidth this system, where they have to buy the mana instead of buying enough IOTA tokens to generate that mana. So I
mm,
definitely see those two, and they're both good for the token. They're both good. Where it's just the approach for getting access is different. If they're early, then they can buy enough IOTA to get them permanent access. Where if they're a little bit later, they'll have to kind of access the IOTA network on a subscription-based model.
Yeah.
If you
mm,
guys can get what I'm saying there, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're actually seeing that more and more across the space because I was listening to something on Dot the other day, and Dot had all the parachains. Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
they basically decided to scrap that. They're releasing the Dot 2.0 as well, or I think it might be a 3.0. They're scrapping the parachains and they're selling block space. It's going to be a sort of a
Hmm,
pay-as-you-play block
okay.
space model, which sounds quite similar. It's a different method, but they're basically achieving the same thing. And it seems a lot of the layer ones are now moving to that.
yeah, and like if we do get this type of usage and all that, and we don't get the price points in the market, which is sort of a fair place, I'll fucking throw my mower off a cliff. I just
I'll
give
join
up.
your mower. I will.
Yeah.
I will jump off a cliff.
Yeah,
That's
you
yeah.
can use the.
Can the mower fly?
I hope not.
That's the next
Yeah.
feature. Anyways, I noticed we're getting, probably at least halfway through now, half an hour through. So I know we're going to move on to some lovely questions from the community soon. Thank you for whoever dropped those comments. But I know we've bigged up Sooniverse, TangleSwap. Before we move on from that, is there any other dApps or project you're particularly interested in on the Shimmer EVM release?
I'm excited about us getting some GameFi. I think I'm sure we're both aware, and I'm not sure how many people are aware, whoever is listening, but gaming is the largest industry, well, entertainment industry in the world anyway. It's bigger than music, it's bigger than movies in terms of how much money it pulls in and how much money is circulating. The buying power comes from the interests of kids, pretty much. So, they pester their parents to buy them whatever they want. And that includes getting access to their credit card for a pay-to-play kind of game. But I think with the evolution of gaming going mobile and that kind of thing, blockchain and DLT has definitely got it should be looked at as something that can be incorporated into these games. And I'd like to see that done on Iota and Shimmer as well, where we get a bit more game development. We've got a handful of them already. We've got Dark Mythos. We've got Iota Heroes. There's another card-based game called Speak. So that we've got a few different games that are going to be coming online, and that's really exciting to see. So that's one thing I'll definitely be keeping my eye on, because I'm working on my NFT, and that's also got a gamification thing to it too. But it's not, I guess, as visually impressive as something like Iota Heroes, which is kind of a real-time animated game versus more of a sort of social game with what I'm trying to build. But GameFi is definitely something that I think is on the horizon for us as well. So that's one that I'll be looking out for.
I do sort of feel a little bit drawn to the bigger projects, if you know what I mean. The ones that do sort of have all this marketing in place already, and you see very continuously progress reports from them, which is sort of exciting for me. Sort of like TangleSwap, Lendix, Shimmer C, Iota B, Tangle by Ape DAO, Soon Labs, of course, Deeper Finance, all these projects, which seems very. I do get a feeling that's going to be a very success story for these guys. And I'm not the biggest DeFi trader guy. I don't really know the difference between API and APR and all that stuff, yield and farming. So I will most likely simply just watch the space grow and sort of try to pick up things here and there. But I won't be an active user to say it like that. But I'm very exciting to see sort of where they're able to go and try to help them achieve those goals. And if they need to sort of communicate something, I'm willing to sit down with them and try my best to sort of help them spread that message. Sort of our job here.
Yeah, nice. So are we officially back, Thomas, with your podcast, or are you gonna sort of take it easy for a little while longer? What do you?
I have been airing it a little bit here and there. It's not confirmed that I will go live at the moment. Need to see it a little bit more. I do have a lot of stuff coming up with my private life, so it makes it very hard to sort of mix doing the podcast on a weekly basis, as well as doing an offshore work, which I'm away and I can't do recordings when I'm there, and then going back here and have all these other stuff going on. But I am trying to sort of find a way to get it back, and if not now, and then hopefully very soon.
We'll take the pressure off a bit. Instead of every week, do once every 3 weeks, or once a month.
No.
And well, when something is better than nothing. I mean, like for me, I've been more on a cadence now of once every 2 weeks, and I feel a lot less stressed, man. I feel a lot better about it. So I don't know, man. We need you back, so consider it, I guess.
Yeah, I am. So we'll find a solution for it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, get back. Maybe you can hire a mini Thomas to help you.
Yeah,
Could
fully,
be.
man.
Yeah, it should be possible to get it back up and running as soon as possible, though. I think it's more likely that I will try out the gaming before I try out the trading.
Yeah, it's so overwhelming, the trading aspect of it in terms of all these strategies. I was trying to get Austin from Block Bytes to give me some of his strategies, but I did get a little bit from him, but he's obviously the expert on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to see their content on that as well, because I'll definitely be learning from them. They're seasoned. They've been around the block, sort of at the point of Phantom starting up with all their stuff. So, I'm sure they're seeing similarities with our community, except for already the amount of liquidity we've already got. If you catch what I'm saying, I mean, with Phantom, I'm sure you had a lot of new people joining that network versus us, where we've been around for 3+ years and we've just got our funds sitting in our wallets pretty much. So I think that's the main difference, where Austin and the Block Bytes crew would see a differentiation between Iota and Phantom, is that there's already a lot of liquidity ready to go.
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see how the next year develops.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited, man. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
There we go. When Spec Weekly is excited, it's time to get excited.
Get your nipples ready. Get that cream.
Yeah, so as you're saying, now we'll go into some questions for the community. I put a tweet out last night, and lots of, actually more than I expected, community members came back with some questions for all three of us. So let's just dive into those. So the first one is from actually Iota Heroes themselves, and they come back with, can't wait to hear whatever this is. Speculation on TVL after 1 day, 1 week, and 1 month on Shimmer EVM, question mark. So he wants to know what the TVL will be on that. I mean, I don't know if you guys want to jump in first. I did have a quick look, did some research this morning on this, but I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
No, you go ahead and take this one, mate.
Yeah.
I'll do some quick math. I reckon 50 million on day one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're close. But
So,
no,
yeah, probably.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Probably around 50. Yeah, I was going to say 50 max on day 1 week, because I'm thinking of 25% of both total supplies. So just to fill you in on the way that I think, about 25% of both total supplies is where we'll max out at in about a month. Before we started staking, I thought that the percentage of total tokens that would be locked up as a maximum was going to be about 38%. So I'm always a little bit pessimistic about how much of the token is going to be used in any kind of staking initiative.
Yeah.
So I was completely wrong about 38%. It maxed up over 70% in terms of those of us who staked for assembly in round 1. So if I'm going into sort of pessimistically thinking how many tokens are going to be used for TVL and locking up that value, 25%, I don't think that's a stretch, man. So I'll say 50 million. Okay, maybe not day 1. Maybe let's say week 1, 50 million. By the end of the first month, it'll be between 100 and 150 million. That's my guess.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I mean, when I looked into it, it's quite interesting because I looked at Kusama, which I think is similar to Shimmer, and to see how the TVL grew on that. And to be honest, the first 6 months or so, it really didn't grow that well. It may be a little bit different with DOT because they don't quite have the amount of dApps ready to launch immediately. But it was quite a slow, painful process, and then it suddenly shot up around 6 to 7 months in. And I'm just looking on DeFi Llama right now, and I'm looking at the top protocols on Kusama. So the top one we've got is Moonriver, which I believe is I think it's Moonbeam's version. Moonbeam's a DeFi protocol on the DOT mainnet. And they've currently got 4 million TVL locked up, and that's the largest one.
Okay, well, I was complete. Can you scrub what I've been saying? So is that just like is that a DApp, or is that one of the DApps running on Polkadot? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that's one DApp on Kusama. So that's not obviously the full Kusama TVL, but that just goes to show maybe you can think about that for like a TangleSwap or something like that, or a TangleC or Shimmer.
So what's the market cap of Kusama?
158 million.
Kusama does?
Kusama, 158 million.
Yeah.
Really? That's a lot less than I was expecting. Yeah, it is. So, I mean, that's just really above Shimmer, so they're actually not too far from each other. I think Shimmer's around 100 million, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So what's the total TVL?
It's about 80 million on CoinMarketCap.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't, on DeFi Llama, it doesn't tell you the total TVL for some reason. Oh, wait, is this it here? It doesn't seem to tell you the total TVL. It just tells you the TVL of the different projects. It's a bit strange. I'm not too sure why it doesn't track that.
Well, then I might not sound so ridiculous after all. Or maybe I sound like a complete noob to all the experts listening. Well, I am a noob, you know. Never pretended to be otherwise.
We're all smooth brains. But no, I think
That's right.
at the end of the day, it's going to be a slow process. So I wouldn't get your hopes up too much. I'm speaking to the audience here. Get your hopes up too much that it's going to go too crazy. But it's going to be a slow build and just build momentum. As it slowly builds its reputation, it's going to increase. And then hopefully we can start competing with the likes of Phantom, etc. Because if you've been following the block bites guys, they seem to think that the Phantom narrative's dead now, and that's probably why they're coming to Shimmer and Iota, etc. So I'd love to see the day when Shimmer takes over Phantom.
Yes, so would I. I'd like to see us back at the top, to be honest.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah. You want to see us at the bottom?
I've seen us at the bottom for way too long now, Jamie. I want to see us at the top.
Bottom
the
at the
cream
bottom.
rises to the top.
Yeah, so the next question is from Digidus. I've seen him on Twitter a lot, actually. First of all, he says, you guys do an amazing job of educating Iota and Shimmer community, putting your heads together. What can you guys do to grow our community and educate other crypto communities about Iota? Thomas, your thoughts on that?
What we can do to educate people and other people outside the community.
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, I decided keep going like what we have, talk to the projects and people that are building in this space and try them to sort of explain what they are doing in their own words without getting too complicated so that even the lowest smooth brain in the community are able to follow to see like what this project is trying to do, sort of see the value behind that. And I also think that you guys making the YouTube videos creates a lot of value and education within the ecosystem. So sort of actually showing people with great edits what is actually happening. So I can do that doing the podcast. I only have to do it through words. But I feel like the combination of all this, as well as the guys on Twitter, which is doing an amazing job with sort of like images and all that, explaining things. I think they are doing a great job as well as you guys. And when it comes to outside the community, I think continue being active on the social media pages, despite being censored here and there, but just try to as much as possible, as well as reaching out to other communities so that I try to have every one episode per month being one outside the community. So I got Yield Tools. I can't remember what the other one was, but sort of had the author that behind the book that from Zero to Hero as some NFT book and stuff like that. Because then they was also connected to our ecosystem, and I connected them to the IF, and then I know the IF had some communication between some of them. Haven't heard anything after that, but yeah, I think continue on that space, as well as I've been able to start marketing, and now the project starting to advertise for themselves. Put all that together, and I think that's a good model.
Yeah, just on that, Thomas, you did great there by reaching out to those guys that weren't in our community. That's always daunting and a little bit hard. You know, there's so many grifters in the space that they probably just think you're another grifter if it's a legitimate person, and they won't give you the time of day. So the fact that you were able to get some people to come on the Moonaco podcast who had no previous exposure to Iota is a massive testament to how hard you were working to get the word out. And I still see you spam stuff on Twitter, dude, and it always puts a smile on my face. Hey, list Iota, you bastard, Like, I'm like,
yeah.
Yes, Thomas, get him.
Get it. But yeah, I tried to I actually got back to people sort of like, Dusty BC Crypto, like the bigger Twitter guys and Sophie and all this. They actually replied, and they were a little bit, and the guy down in Dubai, I can't remember what his name was, but a lot of big influencers within crypto got back to me. Nice. But it always ended up in one thing, like, how much are you willing to pay me to get on? I'm like fuck off.
Yeah. You're a community project, you're not funded, you can't pay them anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay someone and then just let them sort of get more famous when they actually are not interested in hearing anything I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they are the grifters I was just talking about. Well, the ones that always come back to the cash. It's like, but then again, it is their business. So I kind of see it both ways, you know. Yeah, I understand it.
Hmm.
Shimmer Academy, what are your pessimistic and optimistic price predictions for Shimmer and Iota during the next bull run?
Oh, damn. Go
Well,
first, Thomas.
okay. I think the positives is sort of what we all of these topics that we have recently just talked about, which you don't have to explain another time. But the pessimistic things is that we are now probably getting too hyped, and then the result will be that we didn't really catch any of the markets shares that we supposed to get, and we didn't get the new people back into the community that we hoped we were supposed to get. No marketing, which we were like hoping that finally we were able to market and didn't happen. No exchanges or bother to list us. And simply just more the community. And that's the problem, right? Because if we now are getting inflated and we don't really see the result that such a thing should hopefully get us, and we just like we get the UAE news, no pump. We get the Alvarium news, no pump. We win the EBSI, no pump. Then that starts to annoy you more and more and more. Like, okay, there's no new exchanges happening. And then it doesn't matter if the progress is good usually, because then people are just so pissed off because they expect nothing to happen anyways. So that's sort of the downside that I hope doesn't happen, but I'm sort of trying to keep in my back so that I don't get overly optimistic once again, because it hurts too much when you sort of get proven wrong time after time. But I do hope that it's for once the other way around this time.
Yeah, agreed. Look, I'll put my speculation cap on. I say for the next bull run, I'd be happy as an optimistic idea of between $4 and $8 if we can hit that, and the pessimistic take would be between $2 and $3. $4 and $8, I think we'll want to see things like 2.0 fully on the Shimmer mainnet at the very least, with scope to be put on the Iota mainnet. One of the nice things that I saw come out recently was switching over to a validated group model, so that there's no single coordinator node now doing the milestones. So I think that's a positive move in terms of decentralization. But ultimately, the goal is obviously that anyone can join the network and spin up their own node, and then that becomes part of the consensus. So
When will run?
if we've got that, for the bull run, right? So
Yeah,
if we've got that, when I reckon the bull run, I think we've already starting to see a reversal, so sort of an accumulation phase for the bull run. I reckon it really starts to kick in around mid next year when the halvening happens, and then the actual daily increase in price that we've grown to love in those good times will probably happen towards the end of the year, I reckon. So November, December 2024 is when I think we'll start to see daily pamps like we used to see. Yeah,
I agree on that. Yeah.
And for Shimmer, I reckon probably $3 to $4 is the optimistic upside, and kind of the pessimistic view of that during the bull run is $1 to $2. Again, we've seen the narrative shift, like completely turned on its head recently, with the focus being on the Iota token as the one that they want to build up the most. So I think in light of that news, Shimmer, in many people's eyes, will be maybe taking a back seat with the excitement firmly placed on Iota. And, you know, you bought the Iota token, you got Shimmer for free. So you're emotionally probably more tied to Iota than you are to Shimmer. I think that's true for a lot of the community.
Yeah.
And what's going to push us there? Just sheer momentum and the relationship with Iota. So both of them as a whole will kind of lift each other's narratives over time, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's almost impossible to predict the Shimmer price just because there's no historic data for it. It hasn't been through a bull run before. So
That's
I think
right.
on that one, I'm going to have to give a more, diplomatic answer and say it's impossible to predict, but I think $1 could definitely happen. And with IOTA, I wouldn't say it's easier, but look, obviously the first bull run he got to $5, the last bull run he got to around $2.50, wasn't it? So I think people may not like this, but I think a $2.50 in the next bull run is still a good performance, maybe $3, because that's still a 13-14x from where we are now, which is still, a good return. But, with IOTA 2.0, all these other things, it's, DeFi, I would be amazed. I'd absolutely love it if we hit the $5 all-time high. I don't know about you guys, but I think I would accept that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I
Let's
mean,
go.
like, I like the way you're thinking is like you're setting your standard or your bar really, really low. So that if we get over it, then, it's like, yeah, this is way better than I expected. So maybe
Yeah.
I should start thinking that way. But I do believe we'll get over that all-time high for sure. Well, I shouldn't say for sure. Fuck, I'm an idiot. I do reckon we'll get over
I'm
that
actually
all-time high.
locked in.
Next bull run, I'm optimistic, very optimistic.
Great.
Me
Okay.
too.
The next question is from, let's see, who's the next one? So Michael Atlan says, what plans do you have for spending your wealth when you achieve financial prosperity? Thomas, I think this is one for you.
I'm pretty old, laid back. I'm going for the SVJ, and for a daily cursor, going to have the Euros. Maybe do a couple of dirt bikes, a couple of motorcycles, even though I don't like to ride them. Asphalt everywhere. New mowers. All like no maintenance, just get glass railings, PVC, decks, and all that stuff, so you don't have to start painting or whatever. Travel a lot. I do love to travel.
So is Moonaco still going to go ahead, or is it UAE now?
Oh no, we can. The thing is, going to the UAE is actually very cheap compared to very many other places in Europe. It's probably It's a lot cheaper to actually go to the UAE and have a great time than going down to some European tragic city, which is fallen. Like I went to Nice
Oh, yeah.
recently. I went to Milan recently, and it's sorry to say for the people that's from there, but like clean up your shit, man. It's not a good place to be. And I went to New York recently, never going back there again. That's nasty. LA is probably very known for what it is, all that stuff. But when you come down to the UAE, everything is just clean. Everyone is so helpful, friendly. There's no crime. My girlfriend can go out for a walk in the middle of the night, and she's completely safe. I wouldn't let her out. Well, now here comes the Andrew Tate fans. Like I wouldn't like to let her out in the middle of the night in New York alone. I wouldn't be comfortable.
I wouldn't be
either
comfortable
walk
on
her.
my own in the middle.
No,
in
right?
a
You
lot of
wouldn't
New
let
York
Kutkraft
cities on
out.
my own. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very much a fan of the UAE as well. It's cheap. Like it's cheap to get there. You get a good flight with Emirates for a very cheap price. You get a blast of an hotel for the very cheap price. And activities is like yeah, you can use $100,000 in a night if you want to, but you can also go out and have a great meal at a great restaurant for like $100 for two person with desserts and water fountains.
Yeah,
So
not
you
bad.
heard it here first, guys. When we hit $5, we're all buying plane tickets to UAE, and we're getting a yacht party on the go.
Let's go.
I mean, we should do a $4 party, like a halfway between. Let's.
Yeah.
We
More than
might be
happy with
waiting
that.
too long for $100.
Yeah,
Hopefully
it's
that's
a little
a
bit more
$4
expensive.
party for Shimmer.
It's a little bit more expensive to rent a yacht in Monaco, so we think we have to wait for a little bit more. It can't probably be done in like $10, $12 very comfortably, but yeah, let's see.
And I've seen ID Iota actually speculating. TangleSwap put out an announcement that they've got an announcement coming up in a couple of days. And it's a partnership announcement, and it seems to begin with a C. So
Oh,
ID
okay.
Iota was
Coinbase.
but it was it could be Coinbase, it could be Chainlink. That'd be pretty cool if there was a Chainlink.
That'd still be
Mm.
cool. Yeah. Anything would be cool, really. Yeah, any kind of sort of broader exposure is definitely cool for us as a
Maybe
community
it's
as a whole.
CFB.
To be used in Cubic.
Cubic.
Well, I know. Yeah, well, his version of Cubic, whatever he's building now, called Cubic. But yeah, TangleSwap has got some good connections. When I caught up with the leaders there, It was Sylvain and T Strong. We chatted about their new sort of board member. I can't remember her name, but she had her fingers in a lot of the traditional finance circles. So, the reason why you're getting a board member of that caliber is for their networking capability. They're connected with people and they make opportunities happen. So while on a technical level, they might not be sort of as advanced as what the project devs are, on a business level, they sort of far exceed what anyone in the team can get to. So if her connections did lead to something fruitful and ID Iota already knows about that, then that's very exciting. I'll look forward to that piece of news.
Yeah, and TangleSwap is probably one of the projects I've been most in talks to as well, like just random chatting with them. It's a great team, and I think they are doing a lot of exciting stuff. Now with their fuel tokens and all this, we don't have time to get into it, but all the other tokens that are coming up. So that's Soon token, Lim token, Lex token, 8-pin token, fuel token. It's a lot of exciting stuff coming up.
And I think that's probably a good point to call it. There's a lot of questions we didn't get to actually in the end. Sorry about that. Sorry if we didn't answer your questions. But yeah, we can do another one in the future, definitely. Maybe in 6 months when we see how the Shimmer EVMs progressed. But so just to close it off then, so what can we expect from you, Thomas, in the future in the Moonaco podcast?
Ranting, I believe. Now, I think we just have to sort of wait and see. I believe that once the EVM goes live and we get some more information about the UAE and all that stuff, once the IF start to release more, they have the cards very tight right up now. Once the aces are out, I think there's a lot to report on, and I think that's a great time to sort of get back on the horse and start reporting on everything.
Great. And how about you, Kutkraft?
Looking forward to that.
In Specweekly.
Oh, for me, yeah. Look, the next episode, I'm just gonna buy some beer, and I'm gonna just live record the screen and drink as I work through the assets, kind of like a celebration, So I'll get progressively more and more drunk, hopefully, and then I'll put a video out. Just my first exposure to the EVM and the amazing apps that I'm engaging in.
Sounds epic.
Maybe all of us should get drunk and then do dips on losing.
I reckon we all should.
Dips on being the first
I reckon
one.
Everyone should celebrate this.
Yeah. Before we go, then, what's your beer of choice?
I'm gonna get. I like Corona. I'm gonna get some Coronas this time. But Australia's got a decent variety of local beers. I used to like a beer called James Bogues, which is an Aussie beer, but and I'll get sacrificed for saying this. I've tried European beers as well, and I think they're nicer. But having said that, there's a lot of craft Australian beer that's really good, but I do like the European beers. I mean,
I think the German beers are a pinnacle. It's hard
German
to
beers are amazing.
Yeah,
German beers are amazing. But yeah, so I'm just gonna get it. Gonna get some Coronas. I might get some bourbon. I'm just gonna get smashed and play around with the EVM and record some content.
Well, thanks for that, guys. That was really fun. It's good catching up with you on this Shimmer EVM release. It's finally here. So yeah, great. I'll let you get back to your garden, Thomas. And
thank you.
I'll get back to sleep.
Yeah, what time's it?
All right,
there?
guys. It's 12:20. 12:30 almost.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Get some sleep because you'll need some for when it's finally out.
I will. Guys, it was a pleasure. Thomas, I love hearing your voice. Jamie, I love hearing yours too. And thanks for spending time with me. I love you guys, man. We're gonna make it. It's gonna happen.
Yes.
Good morning and good night. While you're here, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out this video right here. Yes, on the screen. That is gonna tell you everything you need to know about the biggest announcement in IOTA's history. So check it out. Peace.